All right, welcome back to the program. This is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio on Route Sheva. The show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out some of our previous episodes. We have a lot of great episodes on there. And again, messiahhour@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns. We're continuing the conversation. Again, this afternoon, my guest is Rabbi David Katz from soulmazal.com. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about the Hasidic movement and Chasidus from when you spoke about up until today.
Okay. When the famous kind of isms you hear, I don't know if it's good or bad, it's just what's said. Chasidus today is not what it was back then. And then from that you'll say, what the Vilna Gaon was arguing about is not the Chasidus of today. Some would say Chasidus today is worse, and he was actually right. Some would say it's different, therefore it's invalid. I don't really think that discussion matters. Not at all. It's just irrelevant. What matters is what is Chasidus. And so we trace the beginnings and the roots, and let's just talk about who the Baal Shemtov was even a little bit. The layman Chasid will tell you the miracle stories of Baal Shemtov. The Litvak will tell you he doesn't believe in Santa Claus. All right, so neither one is really accurate in terms of the merit or the making fun. I think both are just kind of embellishing something that's not true. What is true is that the Baal Shemtov, in terms of Torah, forget the personality and the mirage of the people, and that exists on both sides anyways, for better or for worse. The Torah of the Baal Shemtov, this may be my opinion, but I think it's an objective point of view. It's fantastic stuff. I mean, he is going to be the father of Chasidus. And again, you're going to have the Arizal's Torah, very Talmudic in nature. I mean, like, it's really not fun to learn, so to speak. I mean, it's great material, but it's, a song of mine. It's like the numbers and hints, and I mean, it's like reading code on a computer. If you love to program, you love code. If you just like to surf the internet, you probably don't like code. So if you're interested in Torah code, like in its primal nature, the Arizal is your guy. I love code. I love the Arizal. Now, if you're not into code so much and really breaking it down, like splitting atoms of Torah, the Ramchal is, again, as we said, a great guy also. He's going to take the concepts and really give you a lot of stuff, a full diet. Now, where the Baal Shemtov is going to be the third cog in that mechanism and different, he is going to give you more of, I don't know how you say it, just like a learning process. I mean, the Ramchal is telling you what it is, right? Like, Og in grabbing on the boat with Noah. Let me tell you what that is. That is this, and it's that, and it's this sphere, and it's this. He tells you what it is. The Baal Shemtov is a meditation. It's a discovery, right? It's a package, something to contemplate and think about. Not that you can't do that with the Ramchal. It's just the Ramchal doesn't beg that. He just comes out and tells you what he thinks, and the Ramchal, it might take you years to crack the nut he's trying to show you. I mean, I've been working on Ramchal ideas for 15 years. Only now I'm starting to get it when he says, the wise of mind will understand. He's not joking. It takes a long time. Baal Shemtov also takes a long time, but he allows you to partake. Again, and he's not teaching you Kabbalah. That is the difference. It's Kabbalistic concepts, which is different than Kabbalah, right? Because the Arizal is, again, it's kind of hard to call it concepts or whatever. It's just it's a teaching and the basis of how Kabbalah works. The Baal Shemtov is not interested in the intricacies of that. He is giving you just a beautiful meditation. And it's a beautiful type of Torah. It's unique. Why is Shakespeare better than somebody else? He just is Shakespeare. It's a style. It's a blend. And the Baal Shemtov is a fascinating blend of Chasidus. That gets endorsed and passed on with different flavors. So you're going to get Chabad in the writing of the Tanya, right? And that's going to inspire how many people? And if that's not your flavor, then Rabbi Nachman and Breslov. And just to embellish a bit on Rabbi Nachman, again, the layman's going to tell you he's the tzaddik biggest ever, he's Mashiach, and it's not, like, why do you want to do that? I mean, what's the point? they're going to say, well, Chasidus isn't true because these people are jumping up and down. The point is, have you ever learned Rabbi Nachman? Have you ever opened up Likutei Moharan and read Rabbi Nachman? So, for me, for example, I'm not a big Chassid. I'm not into it as terms of an identification. But in my personal work, my Ger work, which people know I'm into, the work of the Ger, it turns out, of all places and people, Rabbi Nachman is your greatest Ger authority in the last 300 years. His works of Ger inside the Likutei Moharan are unprecedented. It's not some kind of goofy Torah or this and that. He's using real Torah, real sources, a lot of times Zohar, which, and again, it's not to say he's teaching you Kabbalah. The Rabbi Nachman is teaching you things in Torah in a beautiful way. And I think that's what Chasidus is. It's a way of giving you over Torah you may not have gotten otherwise in an absolutely beautiful way.
All right, now let's backtrack a bit. Let's talk about the Vilna Gaon and his Kabbalah.
Vilna Gaon is a whole different story, right? So you're going to get I remember one of the first things I learned about Kabbalah was the Vilna Gaon is like the one guy that argues on the Rizal, right? So the Vilna Gaon's not taking anything from anybody. If he doesn't like it, he's telling you, period, right? And so he's just, that's who he was. Where his Kabbalah goes, first of all, I don't know if there's 5 guys on the planet that really know his Kabbalah. And I'll tell you why. He locked it and threw away the key. I mean, all of his works, he has tons of works, but it's all written in the Rosh Tevis, the initial letters, right? It's like Ari Louis, Israel National Radio. What do you call that? So it's ALIR, right?
The abbreviation, right.
But the initial letters, it's like, anagram or whatever it's called. And all of his works are like that, right? So if he wants to talk about, let's try to say this clearly, like the Mochen of Zah, I'm just making this up for context, right? Mochen of Zah Vatik. And this is a Kabbalistic word. So it's say like Mem, Zion, Aleph, Ayin. And you're supposed to read that and say, oh yeah, Mochen of Zah Vatik, sure, okay, yeah. And like every word is that. I mean, it's almost impossible to figure out what he's doing. And when he writes, it's in Aramaic. So it's very hard to crack his Torah. When he wants it locked. When he wants to explain it, he wrote about it. If you really are determined to do it, you can. But, I mean, you're going to put a lot of work in one book. So his Torah is vast, extremely deep, penetrating, really taking that Arizal Torah, absorbing it, making it something of his own. He's focusing on the Ramchal, so he's theologically correct, which if you're not theologically correct, you're not going to get him. So again, if you're not in that lineage of Ramchal and the Rizal and the Maral and that whole Jewish paradigm of thought, you're not going to get it. So he's like a laser beam. He's on target. He's hard to grasp. If he doesn't like what you're doing, he's going to tell you, and it might not be for the reason why you think. So he's a giant, but his beauty is totally hidden. Whereas the Baal Shemtov says, "Hey, let me show you how beautiful I am." So they're both beautiful, both wonderful Torah, but completely different initiatives and agendas.
Again, this is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio on Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Email me at messiahhour@gmail.com. Let's now focus on the Tzimtzum. Talk about that concept to our audience and what that is.
Right, so again, to back up 1 second and introduce the Tzimtzum, once you have the Vilna Gaon and he's gone, that's the end. His Kabbalah is not endorsed by his students as a thing, whereas the Baal Shem Tov mystical teachings is the thing, right? So that's where you're going to get the misnagdim, the conflict, because there was a fight which we'll get into, and the fight ended for those guys because no one took it up. No one continued to fight in terms of the actual material. What were they fighting over? Tzimtzum. Remember we said about the Arizal, about the main teaching of the Arizal. And the question is, God retracted his infinite light, made a space called, it's called the Tzimtzum, okay? It was darkness, and he emanated a light inside and began creating, and we're still living that creation. One question comes out of that we need to talk about. is God in the Tzimtzum or not? Baal Shemtov says God is in the Tzimtzum. Vilna Gaon says God is not in the Tzimtzum. And they're going to argue, right? The two schools are not seeing eye to eye. They're going to argue. Now, Chabad is going to come up with the Alter Rebbe in its formation, and he's going to write the Tanya, and he's going to want to meet the Vilna Gaon. He's going to really claim to be the essence of the Baal Shem Tov teaching, and therefore reinforcing this idea of how to view God in life, and they are not going to see eye to eye, and that's how history goes down. They're never going to meet, never going to talk, and that's the end. But what I want to just point out is that it's only an argument if you take it in a static way. The Chiddush is they were not arguing in a static argument. It was a dynamic debate. So anything you think of or define, Vilna Gaon said that, and he said, you're wrong. If you don't get the whole 360 panorama view, you're not getting it. And the fact is, they had to argue. They had to. If I say that this radio interview is taking place in my office, is that a true statement?
Kind of.
Exactly. Why? Are you going to say that you exist?
I exist, yes.
Well, not as I see it. I only see that I'm in my office.
Okay.
So you have to say you exist. Right? You have to argue with me. No, Rabbi Katz, the interview's in my office. No, it's in my office. So, they're arguing. They can't see eye to eye. Right? We have to give both sides of the point of view. You see it your way, I see it mine. It cannot be resolved. I'm not you. Right? So they had to give their take on things. Right? And just by the definition of Simsum is going to be an argument. But you have to realize it's not an argument. It's just kind of like the the particle collider in Geneva, right? And they're just, you have to manifest something to hit. And that's what they're doing. They're showing points of view in the nature of something even greater.
All right, now let's go to the Gra and the Alter Rebbe and expand on those two big rabbis a little bit more.
So the Alter Rebbe is going to come, and again, he's going to endorse, obviously, the Baal Shem Tov in a brand new way. And we all know what Chabad is today. It's a giant. They've done great things. They've spread a lot of light. They have furthered the machlokas, right? But unfortunately, I think both sides really. Chabad says, the Vilna Gaon didn't understand our Torah. The Litvaks say you don't understand, how to learn. I mean, it's just bad back and forth. But again, they're not expressing the real machlekes. Machlekes means argument or debate or schism. And what it is again is it was never meant to be an argument in the way you think it is. I'll give you the best example without getting into the details. One of my main works that I work on is Mazel, right? And ask anybody, do Jews believe in Mazel? They'll say, no, Jews don't believe in that. We don't believe in astrology. The Talmud says no Mazel for Israel. Well, Boker Tov, mister, right? Number one, Mazel does not mean astrology. It's the term used for Kabbalah of the upper world, Atzilus, well above the stars and constellations. Number two, the Torah, when it says, is there or is there not Mazel for Israel, is not asking, literally, is there or is there not Mazel? What it's saying is, being that there is Mazel, can we or can we not change our Mazel? So the way they phrase the question, is there Mazel, you see how it's like it's looking at it from a different view? It's saying, is there Mazel, meaning it's a strange Talmudic way of looking at it. It's a given, it's pshita, it's obvious there's Mazel. So when they ask the question, it's not so much rhetorical, but it's coming from a completely different view. It's almost like saying, in a weird way, is David Katz in his office? So, I mean, obviously I know him in my office, right? So I'm obviously asking something completely different. And based on my intentions, you would know what I'm asking. Therefore, the rabbis are saying, can you change your mazel or not? And by the definition of Simsum, they're not arguing me on you, so to speak. They're acknowledging a different point of view and emphasis in a dynamic model that leads to a debate, and the scholars of that debate, if they're not inside the exact place of their predecessors, they're just going to feud with no results.
Again, this is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva. The show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Let's talk about the quote-unquote misnagdim, which means opposers, that word. Talk about that.
So then out of the debate, you're going to have the whole ongoing, anti-Chasidus. Then you're going to have the anti-Talmudic Academy movement, right? You're going to have, I think it's a bit of a Chilul Hashem, right? I mean, it's, but it's almost like the property of, like your kids. If your kid misbehaves, and you say, oh, Billy never eats his food. So what does Billy do? He never eats his food. Right? So you tell the Hasidim, oh, you guys never learn Torah well. So they start saying, good, we don't want to be like you. We're going to just learn Hasidus, and we're not going to even bother. So you're making a self-fulfilling prophecy, and both sides hurt, because the Hasidim really do need Talmud, and Litvoks need to get a little, open their heads and get some Kabbalah in there, and get some Hasidic thought. Hasidus is not some kind of cult. It's not some kind of weird, speaking in tongues. It's Torah. I mean, Rabbi Nachman proves that, but people don't give it a chance. The Baal Shemtov proves that. They don't give it a chance. And, both sides have the abilities and interests, but they're not acknowledging each other based on not even bias, just, I heard you're not kosher mentality. And they're afraid to even open the books of the other one to find out if it's true. And the good news is in the original debate of the Vilna Gaon and the Alter Rebbe, of Chabad, they actually endorsed each other's work. They were very much in each other's camps. So therefore, anything you say contrary, maybe you believe that in your own walk, but you have missed the point of the original cause.
All right, let's talk about now the Kol HaTor and how that factors into this discussion.
So Kol HaTor is to me the greatest final hammer strike on this discussion. The Vilna Gaon is going to, as we said, 1740, to go back to the beginning, is going to write his messianic views through a Talmud, a student, in a book or work called Kol HaTor. The voice of the turtle dove, which, not coincidentally enough, is a verse from Song of Songs, heavily brought out and made public by the Ramchal. Right, so you see just the continuity. Then in that work, he's going to talk about how the end is. Now, also, people that know the Kol HaTor and how it's really a book of formula, viewing the Torah from Gematria and just kind of a mathematical matrix type setting. It's not a regular kind of narrative point of view. And when people learn that work, they think that's the only work of that nature. And I thought this for a long time. It turns out there's like 4 or 5 books in total written of the same author, same style, by the Vilna Gaon of this great work of his messianic view. So one of the other books is called, I have them right in front of me, it's called Midrash Shlomo, Musad HaYesod, Chazon Sion, and Darish Sion. And hardly anybody knows these things. I think they were hidden at the time of Zionism, because they didn't want Zionism to get a hold of the Vilna Gaon, which he is the inventor of Zionism, called Zionit Gra'it, Zionism of the Gra. And therefore, when you get into those books, which have been off the shelves a long time, the Vilna Gaon students eventually made Aliyah to the original Yishuv. I mean, the real original Zionism. And the Vilna Gaon wanted to come, but he couldn't. I think his boat caught on fire. And they came to Sfat in Jerusalem primarily. And who did they come with? Who was the Vilna Gaon students hanging out with? The Lubavitchers. They were together in Sfat, together in Jerusalem. The Machlekes did not even exist here. The Vilna Gaon in those books is on record as saying the Alter Rebbe was a huge Talmud Chacham, right? He appreciated his Torah. Obviously, the opposite was true, or he wouldn't have wanted to meet him, right? And the students got along, no debate. When it comes to Mashiach in the land of Israel and getting Judaism to succeed, there was no argument. They were great. So you see that the argument was only a chutz la'aretz deal outside the land issue, and it was on matters of points of view of necessity to understand the Rizal's Torah. Without one point of view, you would never understand the Rizal's Torah. So if there was a discussion, it's not what you thought it was.
All right. Last question we have for you. Let's talk about the dispute of L'Shem Shemayim and what that means in this discussion.
So when we hear, yeshiva, when you go to yeshiva, one of the funniest things that they say is when you first get there, you have 6 months smicha. Right? Everyone knows it all in their first 6 months. Right? We don't paskin like the Rambam. You're not on the level to learn that. The Misnagdim were wrong. Rabbi Nachman is in fact Mashiach, maybe God himself. We're not sure yet. Nanach is the emes. You get all the isms, I think it takes about 10 years to get those cobwebs out of your head, because you're going to form a wall on some level, right? Either you're going to hate Rabbi Nachman or love him. You're going to love, Talmud or hate it. And that's how, you form these barriers. And you live in your little cave, and you hate everyone that's not you. And that's what's wrong with Judaism. I mean, it really is. Because, the layman makes everything so bad. And for you, if you love Rabbi Nachman, you hate this guy because, you're being crusaded. They say, well, wait a minute, the Vilna Gaon hated you, so of course I hate you. Like, wait a minute, back up, guy. First of all, there's no hatred here. Number two, the Vilna Gaon didn't hate the Alter Rebbe and vice versa. And you're promoting and spreading hatred that never existed. So, there was a machlekes l'shem shemayim. You can argue for the sake of heaven. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you just have to. But it doesn't mean there's animosity and this and that. Even if it's heated debate and things, whatever, it's called passion. Like, Judaism used to believe in its cause. People used to actually care about their Torah, their learning, and their divine service. I mean, that is what Torah is about, is the fixing of that problem. Cain and Abel 101, Jew Ger 101. And the biggest light that I've seen in this area, again, is the works of the Vilna Gaon, because he talks about, those works reveal the truth, that they were one with the students of Chabad. Maybe there's Chabad works to say it too. I don't know. I'd like to see it. But the fact is, the machlekes is not what people think it is. And there's a lot of love and light in the Torah and Jewish people that just needs to be revealed and spread throughout the world.
All right. We're going to have to end the conversation there. Thank you so much, Rabbi David Katz, SoMazal.com. This is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Route Sheva. The show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Email me, messiahhour@gmail.com, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Rabbi David Katz, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great day. Be well. God bless. MessiahHour@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Be well.